I have covered and listened to many true crime cases, but this one definitely hits home for me. When Elizabeth was praying for her missing granddaughter, she was approached by an older, kind looking woman. This woman consoled Elizabeth and promised to help find her granddaughter. She invited Elizabeth to another temple and scheduled a personal prayer on Elizabeth's behalf for her granddaughter's well being. Together, they headed for the prayer to find Elizabeth's granddaughter. Soon after, Elizabeth was found dead. Welcome to Truth, Fiction, and More, where we cover all types of true crime and fictional stories. If you enjoy my content, please don't forget to subscribe, as it gives me the motivation to continue my journey of bringing you quality stories. Today, I cover a story of an infamous and a female serial killer named Katie Kempamma. Eventually, she was known as Cyanide Mallika for reasons you will find out soon. Katie was an Indian woman who was born in 1970 and lived in a small village called Kaglipura, located around Bangalore. And Bangalore is the largest city of an Indian state called Karnataka. Katie was a married woman. However, her husband left her after a mutual business took significant losses. She was known to work odd jobs, most of which included house help as a maid. It was also reported that Katie would often steal from the owners of the houses who she worked for. In 1998, she was caught stealing in one of her workplaces and was sentenced to a 1 year in prison. While this would delay her evil plans, the worst was yet to come after she was released from prison. She was in debt and desperate need to make quick money. This is when she came up with her evil plan to deceive and kill vulnerable women. Katie, aka Cyanide Mallika, would target women from well-off families who were in helpless situations. She started by visiting temples where she would observe women in distress. Once she had made enough observations, she would convince them of being a holy woman herself who had godly ways of getting rid of people's problems. Women would easily be convinced as it would bring them hope. Upon chatting with them, she would ask to host a prayer on their behalf, which could possibly result in their wishes being granted or their problems being solved. This was enough for Katie to lure her victims in. She would then choose an abandoned place to meet her victims, which was usually away from the victim's residence. She would ask them to come with their best behavior, especially in terms of their physical outlook, asking them to wear expensive clothes and jewelry. Once her victims and Katie met up for a prayer, she would offer them holy water or food with potassium cyanide in it. For those of you who don't know much about cyanide, it's a toxic compound that looks like sugar and is highly soluble in water. It is often used for gold mining and other scientific procedures. Basically, cyanide prevents our cells from using oxygen and eventually can, and enough amount will, lead to death. Once her victims would die from cyanide, she would rob them of everything valuable they had on. She would then go on to kill at least 6 women, and one of these women was a 22-year-old female named Renuka. She was temporarily staying with her sister named Manny, while Renuka's husband was working in Dubai. Unfortunately, Manny and Katie were friendly as they both worked for the same owner as house help. Consequently, Katie also became very friendly with Manny's sister Renuka. Renuka was reported missing on December 29, 2006, when her husband returned from Dubai. It was later found that Renuka had been missing since December 8th. That is 21 days before anyone had any idea that she was missing. Katie had taken Renuka to a temple to help her with her wish of conceiving a baby boy. Renuka was found dead at the same temple. Katie would then go on a killing spree by killing helpless and vulnerable women. She was eventually arrested by police on December 31st and 2009. She was convicted of multiple murders in separate trials. In 2010, she was sentenced to a death sentence for one of these killings. 2 years later, in 2012, another trial resulted in a separate death sentence. Katie was the first female to receive a death sentence in Karnataka. Her sentence was eventually converted into a life sentence as it was concluded that there was only circumstantial evidence available. Now, that is the end of the story, but if you're interested, there is an Indian movie titled Cyanide Mallika that was released on 26 February 2021. Anyways, please stay safe and alert. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's story.